Eagle Community Television presents Community Connection with your host, Mike Cooper.
Welcome to Community Connection from Eagle Community Television, Channel 14. Thanks for watching. We're in the studio today, joined by members of Jimmy D and the Fabulous Destinations, as they have reunited here several years ago, playing some area events. I'm sure you're well aware of them. They just came off an event at the Ellis County Fair, playing at the Eagle Free Stage on a Friday night. And we wanted to mention some of the band members, talk with them a bit about the history of Jimmy D and the Fabulous Destinations. And we have Tony Pfeifer, who brought the guitar, and we'll hear about that a little bit later on. We also have the leader of the band, I guess we'll say, until we find out differently from the other members here, Jim Schmidtberger, and also Bill Gasper, of course, journalism teacher at Hayes High School and a member of Jimmy D. Now, the members who are not represented because of prior commitments like jobs and things like that are Tim Pfeifer, Ray Schmidtberger, and also Joe Dreiling, but the member's not able to be with us today. But we're glad these three guys could spend a little time talking about the history of one of the best and one of the best known show bands in the area. Well, let's start, Jim, if we might, with an introduction, and we'll start with the introduction of you, the instruments you play, and how long you've been with the group, all right?
All right, I've been with the group since late 1975, which is when we created the group or started the group. And I am fortunately just a singer, so I do play guitar on the side sometimes, but I just sing, so I got it made.
Bill Gasper.
I'm also one of the original members from 1975. I'm the drummer.
And of course, guitar, obviously, Tony Pfeifer.
Yeah, we're all six members of the band are original members right now, and I play guitar.
That's one of the unique things I think about Jimmy D and the Fabulous Destinations is you guys, since the 70s, have stayed together for so long. And how many years? Anybody done the math on that? Since what, 75, you said, Jim?
Late 1975, right. Mm-hmm.
The Jimmy D group still playing after a kind of a hiatus. Who wants to talk about the time between when you were playing initially in the 70s and then you took a little time off and came back again? Jim?
I can talk about that. We actually broke up in about 1980, and then I started a band called the Jimmy D Band, which was very popular until 1992. And then Bill, of course, did some booking. I think you can talk about that a little later. And Tony also went in some other groups, and he can tell you about that.
Yeah, Tony, as a matter of fact, you're not just a member of the Jimmy D Band, but also a lot of other well-known bands in the area.
Yeah, well, we were the Heat in 85 to 91, and also Anthony and the Animals since 1990.
Both
still playing, yeah.
Yeah, still playing, and both of which had good runs, too, as a matter of fact.
The Heat probably did the most. We had a record deal with Warner Brothers and toured a lot of states and stuff like that.
And speaking of, for fans who still like to find those CDs and those LPs and things, anything still out there?
Yeah, I have a website, tonegroup.com. You can order CDs. We're selling them all over the world. It's really strange. I mean, I send them to New Zealand. I send them to Australia, Japan. It's amazing. I mean, thousands of copies, and Jimmy D copies as well, too. You can get any of the band's CDs off the website, tonegroup.com.
Tonegroup.com, and that includes the Jimmy D CDs, too.
Absolutely, yeah.
Which there are, what now, 3?
Well, there's 3 currently, but we actually recorded, the Jimmy D Band recorded an album, and we recorded the first album back in 77, I think, or something like that, 78.
So those are also available?
The original ones are not, no. Just the ones from the last, there's three CDs from the last 8 or 9 years.
Somebody didn't have the recorder running at the time, apparently, then, during the Jimmy D Band. Yeah. So, question is, and whoever wants to tackle this, who came up with the name of Jimmy D and the Fabulous Destinations? Who takes credit for that? Bill?
Well, I can't take credit for it. The way I remember it, we had put Jim as the lead singer, and so we wanted to come up with a name where we would have Jimmy whatever and whoever, kind of like the bands from the 50s. So Anthony and I met, we were just over at the swimming pool and we got to talking, and he came up with, of course, Jimmy, and then he he said, Jimmy D sounds good. And we said, yeah, that's great. And then he actually then came up with Jimmy D and the Fabulous Destinations, which kind of really didn't make a lot of sense to me at the time. But we thought, well, after we thought about it, we said, yeah, that sounds pretty good. And so that's kind of the rest is history. That's where we stuck with it.
Well, it certainly has been a telling name for sure. And, when you look at back some of the groups that were named, Jimmy D, the Fabulous Destinations is right on target, Tony.
Yeah, it's really crazy where I came up with that, actually. We used to open with a song called The Wanderer by Dion, and when we were changing the name, well, I just started rolling, and The Wanderer went to destinations, and what kind of destinations are we going to? Fabulous ones. And then I needed Jim's last name to have a D in it to rhyme with destinations, so it just turned into Jimmy D and the Fabulous Destinations.
That's where these artists come from. They come up with all these great ideas. Now, the big question is, what was the second choice that was rejected? Anybody come up with something that, well, sounded pretty good, but it didn't quite make the cut, huh?
I'm pretty sure it was Jimmy Dreamer and the Nightmares. That was one of them, I'm thinking.
I thought it was Blondie Weber and the Dirt Floors.
There were several of them. That were.
So a lot of them got crossed off the list then, right, Tony? Yeah. Oh, my. So Jimmy D and the Fabulous Destinations. Now, the question is, as we mentioned, there were a lot of show bands at one time in western Kansas, a lot of well-known bands, but they're gone. And yet Jimmy D and the Fabulous Destinations remain. So, Jim, what's the secret of the success of this bunch?
Well, I don't know what the secret is, but I'm glad we have it, that's for sure. Like you said, there were a lot of good bands come out of this Hayes area with the college, I remember some great bands when I was young. I mean, they were good, and 2 or 3 years at most, and they're gone. I remember going to Colby the first time in 1981, and the guy says, "You want to come back in 1986? We have this every 5 years." I said, "Sir, rock and roll bands only last about 2 years." Well, we played the one in '86, and we played the one in 1991, so we were together so long that we played both of those. So
I was going to say that's quite a tradition, isn't it, Bill?
Yes, I think also one reason maybe for the longevity is maybe the style of music we play. We capitalize on the 50s phenomenon from the mid-'70s and through the late '70s with Happy Days and American Graffiti, and people were really fanatic about that music, and so we established some lifelong fans, let's put it that way. A lot of people followed us, and so they continue to like that music. And let's face it, 50s and 60s rock and roll it's easy to listen to, it's easy to dance to, it doesn't offend anybody, and I think that's one reason why people continue to like to listen to us.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that, Bill, because this literally, you've got an audience of people who just literally grew up with you, having been introduced to the music, perhaps even in later years through the films that you mentioned and the television shows and such, but just really continued to follow the band. And Tony, it's amazing the crowds that Jimmy D and the Fabulous Destination drew and have drawn and are still drawing.
Yeah, I think it's just, if you come to one of our shows, it's crazy. 1 week we'll be playing out at a fairground, and we'll have 5 and 6-year-olds up to 80-year-olds out there dancing. Next week we'll be in a bar, and we'll have 21 to 25-year-old college kids just going crazy. Everybody loves what we do. That music is just there, and it always works.
And I guess, Jim, one of the things that is of interest is what holds the band together. I mean, like you say, these are the original members. What is it? What is the cohesiveness? Any thought on that?
That's another secret, I think, but I think we all get along real well. I'm not going to say we haven't had our troubles, but we really do. We get along real well. We drive the gigs. We talk about different things, politics, from the stock market, whatever, families, baseball. We talk about all kinds of things, and basically we really get along pretty well. Like I said, every once there's a little bit of squabble, but not too bad. It's really an outlet for me. After the job, you work all day, and then you go play these dances, and the crowds are so big, and they just pump you up, and it's so much fun. So it works out for all of us, I think, and we all enjoy that, I think.
Well, that really makes a difference, doesn't it, Bill, on the crowd and their reaction to you and the music?
I think that's one of the primary reasons that does keep us going is the crowd reaction and their appreciation. Of course, everybody wants to be appreciated for what they do. And I think the fun that we have entertaining people, I think, allows us to be more tolerant to maybe some of our own personality quirks, that we may or may not disagree with somebody or something that they did or said. But generally, all is forgotten when we're actually doing the entertainment. And so, like Jim said, we've had a couple squabbles here and there, but as far as this band goes, since we've reformed, I don't think we've had any significant squabbles. I think that's part of maturity and just overlooking some things.
Yeah, and you can kind of let the egos go because you're just out to have some fun now and entertain folks at the same time.
When it's time to go on stage, there's just a total new face on everybody. I think we really do put our heart and soul out there, and we have a good time. We wouldn't have a good time, I would definitely not be doing this. We have a good time. Yeah. And, you can just automatically see our faces light up when we get to go on stage. If there's one person out there, I love it. If there's 1,000 people out there, I've never met a crowd I didn't like, so that's the one thing I like.
And I think Tony touched on this a little bit about the attraction of the music of the 60s being basically happy music, easy to listen to, easy to dance to. As Bill said, no offensive parts of that music. Some of the things that I think really attracts people to the music of the 60s that you guys play.
I think that's well said. I think you said it all right there, yeah. And there's, like you have the sax in there, which at the piano, those are great instruments, and of course Tony sets the sound and the guitars and everything and the drums, and it does a great job.
Yeah, and it blends just great. It really does. Tell me about, and I want to ask each of you this, any favorite groups of the 60s that might, influence your favorites as you look back, and of course you guys really formed in the 70s, so maybe even into the 70s. Any of the groups? Tony, what about that?
Well, as far as the Jimmy D Band goes, we've always really been into the Everly Brothers. I mean, Jim and I have sang a lot of Everly Brothers tunes over the years. I think for this band, definitely that was a big influence.
Mm-hmm. How many times for Bye Bye Love do you suppose? Oh, I can't count.
We sang that about 500 times.
500 times. It's
actually, what's really silly is that's probably true. Probably is 500 times.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Jim, what about your influence?
My influences were definitely, I remember obviously the Beatles coming on in February. I remember the day, February 9th, 1964. They came on the Ed Sullivan Show. Mm-hmm. I was in front of that TV. It was unbelievable. Mm-hmm. Elvis. I remember some of the movies. Elvis was a tremendous influence on me. Another guy, Ricky Nelson was just Saturday nights he was on there, and I remember watching him, and man, this guy could sing, and he was, the girls are screaming, and the girls, that wasn't a bad deal either, So
I want some of that, right?
That was pretty cool, and of course, I was influenced by the Twist, Dion and the Belmonts and those guys, and the Twists and Chubby Checkers, that type of stuff. All those guys had a big influence on me, and even some country people. The great Hank Williams. When I was a young kid, my dad used to turn Hank Williams on, and we'd be driving, and we'd sing "Cheating Hard." Well, we sang a lot of that, and the Everly Brothers, of course, were big influences on us. So.
And of course, they had all of that crossover music, from country to pop, and so many like Marty Robbins and all those other artists that crossed over. Bill, what about you?
I would have to say the Everly Brothers for me, not necessarily an influence that I used to listen to them, but as far as the favorite groups that we play right now, definitely the Everly Brothers. I like the two-part harmonies that these guys do. Mm-hmm. The crowd loves them. Their ballads are just absolutely phenomenal. And so Everly Brothers would definitely be in my top group of what we play. Elvis was a big influence, but being a product of the 70s, I was a little bit more in the heavier stuff. Deep Purple, Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, a lot of those bands influenced me at that time just because I just like to listen to that music. And,
of course, classic rock. A staple of a lot of successful radio stations these days. But yeah, the Everlys, you can kind of go from the up-tempo, When Will I Be Loved, to the ballads, The Dream, for the slow dances and those kind of things. So a lot of things to draw on, that's for sure. Everly Brothers music, what about any rock and roll idols? Anybody that you guys, mentioned that you thought about? You said, Jim, Elvis was a big influence of yours.
Well, I had older brothers. Now, Tony didn't. Tony's the oldest of the family, so he's kind of cut off. I had older brothers that had a lot of influence on me. My older brothers did a lot of singing. They were great singers. In fact, they did a lot of Everly Brothers themselves. They won a lot of talent shows when I was just a young kid. And they done a lot of Everly Brothers, and they done a lot of, and of course, my brothers got into bands then, and the Beatles were just a tremendous influence on them, and then also on me, because I watched them, and I thought, that's where I want to go. That's the kind of stuff I want to do. But yeah, the Beatles were probably big on me, and so were the Everly Brothers and Ricky Nelson, like I say, Elvis. Those kind of guys are really big on me.
You guys are still playing, of course, as we've mentioned several times. About how many times per year do you play? Any idea of the numbers now that you're usually playing on? Bill, what about that?
Generally, it's we go up from 20 to 24 dances a year. I mean, that's an average. Sometimes it's a little bit more, sometimes it's a little bit less. Our busy months are primarily in the summer when we're playing fairs and festivals and things like that. And sometimes, some of these groups decide to go a different direction, book somebody else for that year, and then we might come back the next year and play it. So I would average 20 to 24 times.
And just enough to keep you engaged and keep you having fun, but not so much that you get burned out on it.
Yeah, I don't think we ever get burned out.
So as far as we know, I was about to ask about retirement, so it sounds like maybe that's not in the cards for the Jimmy D and the Fabulous Destination Band.
As long as they keep calling, we'll keep playing.
Keep playing. That's
McCartney's 70. It's just a number.
I know, and he's already shown up, with the boss and doing things in the Olympics now, so that's for sure.
We're just young boys.
Yeah.
We're just young boys.
We're
just getting started.
Just getting started.
As long as we can still get up on stage without a walker.
Climb those steps and you'll be fine, right? Well, you notice Tony brought the guitar, and so one of the things that we'd like to do is to ask him to do a little bit. You can't let at least 3 of the 6 band members go without at least a little bit of music, and we'll do that when we return. You're watching Community Connection from Eagle Community Television.
We need to talk. You are not my friend. I can't depend on you. You look ugly in my yard. What have you done for my community lately? Nothing. It's not me, it's you. I want you out of my life. I'm ditching you and switching to Eagle.
Ditch the dish and get $200. Call Eagle Communications today at 877-61-EAGLE.
Community Connection from Eagle Community Television. Members of the Jimmy D and the Fabulous Destinations Band, Tony Pfeifer, Jim Schmidtberger, and Bill Gasper joining us today. And in just a couple of minutes, we'll hear a little bit of some of the music that they've become famous for. But we did want to talk about some of the band members, original band members. And of course, we do want to mention Tim Pfeifer, Ray Schmidtberger, and Joe Dreiling as members that are current with Jimmy D that were not able to be with us today. But we also wanted to mention some of those other names. Jim?
Don Hart was with us, one of the originals. He was on with us about 8 months or so. And then, of course, Fulton Calvary was with us, and of course, Tim Calvary played with us also.
Dave Brule.
Dave Brule played with us, and also Wagner, Brad Wagner.
Brad Wagner. Who did
and
he
Wayne
leave out?
Billinger. And Wayne Billinger played with
yes.
it, yeah.
Okay.
The great Wayne Billinger.
So,
I think that's all of them, I think, if I'm
That runs like a who's who of music in Ellis County, it really does. Also, some of the projects and some of the things that are coming up. Documentary, music like that. Tony's been working on some things and getting some real recognition. Jim?
Well, last night I was at the other night I was at the Ellis County Fair, and on the Eagle stage there they had the karaoke contest, and one of Tony's songs that he produced and wrote was sung and took 3rd place. So we were really happy about that for Tony.
There were 3 people.
Actually, there were about 19 or 20. There was quite a few.
Way too modest, Mr. Pfeifer. Now stop that.
And Mike and Tony, they were good. There was a lot of good singing. There were a lot of good songs. They did a great job out there. So I was very impressed. So
And that reminds me, are you still writing?
Yeah, I write all the time.
That's great.
Working on something tomorrow, a Christian song with a gal.
Super. What about this documentary now? Talk about that a moment.
Let's let Bill talk about the
Bill?
documentary. He loves to talk about that.
I do.
Leon, of course, Leon Frank is doing it, and here's Bill to tell you about it.
Leon Frank is, actually he was a member of a of a different rendition of the Jimmy D Band. It actually was the Jimmy D Band, so it was Jimmy D and the Fabulous Destinations, and then the Jimmy D Band, which Jim explained earlier, that went for a while. But Leon decided he would like to do a documentary on the band, Jimmy D and the Fabulous Destinations, primarily what we've been talking about because of the longevity and the continued popularity. So he's been shooting tons of footage. He's been to a number of our shows, shooting crowd shots, interviews with crowds, interviews with us setting up, us tearing down. And he's been working on it for quite a while. However, he also is self-employed, and he is busy, and he's kind of taking it, as he told me, he wants to do a really bang-up job on it, so he just doesn't want to hurry it up and get it done, so he's taking his time. We're hoping to see that maybe towards the end of the year. It's going to be about anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes, depending on who he wants to format it for, which television stations may want to air it, say maybe like public broadcasting or something like that.
Oh, that'd be great, and of course on Eagle Community Television too, as a matter of fact. Yeah, Leon has been doing some tremendous work, not only in audio when he was at KAYS, but also then when he went to K-State and doing all of the other audio-video work that he's done. So it is going to be a first-class production, that's for sure.
It's very, very good. It's very good.
Okay, enough. I'll get out of the way. You guys take off here on, well, what have you decided you're going to play?
Well, we're going to play an Everly Brothers tune, but I can't plug my guitar in, and they didn't bring a tuner, so a lot of times it's like that on stage. You just got to go.
You just got to wing it, don't you?
That's right.
Well, I think after the success you guys have had, that it'll be enjoyable regardless. All right.
Thank you, Mike.
So we've got Tony and Jim this time. Everly Brothers, When Will I Be Loved, right?
Right.
Take it away, guys.
I've been made blue. I've been lied to. When will I be loved? I've been put down. I've been pushed round. When will I be loved?
I tell you, that guitar riff that you did, Tony, is just like the Everly's guitar riff on the song.
Yeah, I stole it.
Amazing. Well, that works well. So, more of Jimmy D and the Fabulous Destinations. As they say, look for them coming to a town near you soon. That's our Eagle Community Television, Channel 14, Community Connection. Thanks for watching.